Hello YouTube and welcome to the channel. This is Mox Emerald Games, the Irish MTG channel. I am Dave Murphy.
And I'm Sean Lynch.
And today we're going to be looking at the top 8 cards that we absolutely hate from Zendikar Rising. Last week we got to be all positive, we got to say the cards we love from Zendikar Rising. But this week we're going to be a scooch more negative and tell you about the ones we are absolutely not looking forward to playing and absolutely not looking forward to seeing. I'm a gentleman as always, so Sean, I'm going to let you go first. Why don't you tell the crowd what card you hate from Zendikar Rising?
Okay, first on my list, Seagate Restoration / Seagate Reborn. So this is part of the Mythic cycle. They're bolt lands. Shout out to Jamie Comfort for coining that term. Pay 3 life and make these come in untapped, and they cap for, well, this one taps for blue, and there's one in each color. I think this is the worst one out of the 5. So the spell half of this part is 4 triple blue, so 7 mana, sorcery, draw cards equal to the number of cards in your hand plus 1, and then you have no maximum hand size the rest of the game. This, I think, is absolutely terrible. I don't want to curse on this, but I have some more harsh words to say about it. But the reason I think it's terrible, A, sorcery speed, not great. If you're playing a control deck, which is, presumably where you would only play this, you don't want to be tapping 7 mana to draw a couple cards, basically. And if you're winning the game and you have 4 cards in hand, where this would draw 5 cards, well, why would you want to tap out for this? You want to hold up counter magic or instant speed removal. This just seems so bad because if you have no cards in hand, usually this 7 mana spell is going to catch you up. No, it's going to draw you 1 card for 7 mana. I hate this card. And normally I love janky blue mythics, but this one seems absolutely awful to me. What do you think, Dave?
So certainly I think they didn't want to push a blue draw card too hard when it came to like the utility of getting to be a land as well. But I think I have to agree, this and the white one probably are underwhelming. The white one, it makes 2/4/4 angels and makes like your guys indestructible, but it's like 7/8 mana. When's the indestructible thing going to come in? But like the Seagate Restoration, I gotta agree, the decks that I've tried it in the early access event at least, it was like draw 2 7 mana divination, and that's good, but when you compare it to the black one, which is in the late game reanimate most of your team, or the green one, which is search for like one of the best creatures in your deck, or the red one, which is kill multiple creatures, this isn't very pushed. Even at maybe a mana less, this would be a little bit better. 7
Maybe
just
instant
seems,
speed,
yeah,
something like that.
yeah, just little things in this card have made it bad. 7 seems just the worst this could have cost. Well, like obviously more than that as well. But seven just brings it to that unplayable mark. And in some decks that I tried like a kicker deck and like long term control decks. I don't want to hold my lands. When I hit the 7th mana, I don't want to have to hold my lands in hand thinking that I'm going to draw this. I want to be able to like kick it into the royal and play a removal spell and have a counter spell still up. I don't want to have to go, oh, I want to stop at exactly 7 lands in case I draw my expensive divination.
Yeah.
And then on
I'll say one more thing about this. It got passed to me in an arena draft today. So that it's not that great at all. It literally got passed to me, pack 1, pick 1, or well, pack 1, pick 2. So people don't like it.
That's very true. Yeah, I do think it's the worst in the cycle. And while maybe that doesn't make the card awful, I can see it seeing very little play. I will give it one upside before we move on to my first hate card. I saw this getting played in the mono blue Nyx Bloom Lotus combo deck. While I don't think that's a tier deck, this is maybe actually good in that shell.
Yep. Let's move on to your second card, or your first card here, Dave.
So my first card is going to draw some ire, I think, from fans, because this card was highly anticipated as we came up to this set. And that is Leyline Tyrant. Big old dragon. It lets you just float your red mana through phases. Your red mana doesn't get spent through phases. And when it dies, it deals damage to any target equal to the red mana in your pool. Dies to Doomblade. I know people hate this. I know people hate that phrase. I know it means a lot of things and it doesn't discount every creature. But you're investing 4 mana in a format that has come into play immediate effects like Omnat. You're investing 4 mana in a 4/4 flyer that might have no effect on the board next turn as well, right? At Mythic as well, I think it's maybe one of the worst Mythics in the set. I think on its upside, it probably has some really nice play in EDH, especially not super competitive EDH. I could see this being good. But yeah, a 4-drop that doesn't have an immediate effect on the board, that even when you leave it alone, you want these Mythic 4-drops to then snowball. I don't think this even snowballs that well. And it can
Yeah.
still get exiled by stuff. It's not when it leaves play, it's when it
Oh, it's
dies.
not when I play. Wow.
Yeah, so you
Wow.
can bounce it, you can exile it. It's just when it dies, and I think that's not good enough in Modern Magic anymore.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to agree with you on this one. I mean, the format's got Brazen Borrow. Let me tap my 4 mana to play a card that does nothing basically straight away. Brazen Borrower. Like the game is over. Like
Or
you're not gonna win that one.
bounce is even worse because if you lose that your mana unspent mana doesn't go at the end of a phase, they can do it in
Yeah.
your turn. You can go like end of your turn, float out like 20 red mana, and they're like Brazen
Yeah.
Borrower, your turn, you lose all your mana. That's awful.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
I think people like to think of the best case scenarios with this card. It's like, well, if I get like 10 mana and then they kill it, I'm gonna, hit something for 10. It's just like this isn't never gonna happen. And if it's gonna happen, you're probably gonna have more spells in the battlefield. You're winning already. So I just don't think the card's very good.
Yeah, I will say it has nothing backing it up. Like sometimes big red mid range decks are things. There
Yeah,
isn't anything really in a big red mid range deck. Red is for the Omnat in your mid range deck, not for Leyline Tyrant. So maybe that's making it look worse. But certainly I want to be doing way better things for 4 mana in this format, I think.
agreed, agreed.
Sean, your next hate card.
My next hate card, and here's one that I could definitely be wrong on because it's already seeing a little bit of play. But let me continue on it because we made these lists before we saw any information or like standard was being played on Arena. So it's called Glasspool Mimic. Shapeshifter Rogue 0/0, 2 and a blue. You may have Glasspool Mimic enter the battlefield as a copy of creature you control, except for it's a Shapeshifter Rogue in addition to its other types. But it also can be played as a tapped blue source. The reason I think this card is bad is because you have to copy something you control, so you have to be already ahead for it to be good. Also, if it's on the stack and you have, like, let's say, a mana dork or whatever you want to copy, and I killed a mana dork in response, well, guess what? It's going to come in as a 0/0 and die. So I was not a big fan of this card at all. I just don't think it's very good.
I think clones and modern magic have to be quite good before they see play. I think the last good one we got is probably something like
Spark Double?
yeah, that didn't even see that much play. It was in the Garuda deck at the start of the format, but excuse me.
That's all right.
It was in the Garuda deck at the start of the format, but it fell off after that. It was just a very specific combo, so needs were as needs must.
Yeah.
But this 3 mana clone effect has been around for a while now. Clone doesn't even cost 4 mana when it's only your own stuff anymore, especially. So it's nothing special. I don't think it's going to see a particular amount of play unless Garuda somehow gets a critical mass of clones again, which they're probably going to keep an eye on and not let happen. That's not a fun
You can't even
deck.
play this because Garuda is only even spells, right? So you can't even play that in the Garuda deck.
Yeah, you'd have to like commit to 4 Garuda's main deck, some kind of weird build like that, right? So yeah, this is just a little boring as well. I don't think this is a bad card. It's been very good and limited when I've had it.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, it's boring.
By the way, I've seen the blowout happen in limited where they try and copy something, you kill the creature in response.
Oh
So
yeah,
obviously that's rare, but it's a high upside card.
my opponent tried to make a second Rogue Lord on turn 3. Once that was very
Yeah.
greedy, they got sufficiently punished for that play.
Love
Yeah,
it, love
yeah, yeah. I'm less. I think I'm less down on the power level as you because I think it's nice that this effect is on a land. It gives you an excuse to kind of sneak it into your deck. But I think it's kind of boring and like very low floor, right? As you said.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's move on to your next card, Dave. What do you got for us?
This one's a bit controversial, and maybe it's just a bit stupid by me. But I hate the pathways. I hate the
There we go.
pathways for so many reasons, and they are obviously good cards. Let's get that out of the way. They are not bad magic cards. They're going to be see an enormous amount of standard play, and I could even see them leak into Pioneer, or even maybe not modern, but like you could see them leaking into different formats. Certainly historic as well. I keep forgetting that's different from Pioneer. I hate these because I hate the naming. I hate that both sides have different names. So I think from like a functional point of view, that's a bit crappy. Now maybe I'm a bit too focused on that. I'm not a commentator, but I hate stuff that's confusing, and I don't think I'll ever stick. The other thing I hate about these is they aren't as good as I want them to be, and
Okay.
I know that's a bit silly. I
So what do you
know.
want? Do you want the Kaladesh Fastland, something like that, or what do you want?
Yes. So my point with these is that they're not a dual land on turn 1. I know that's obvious to say. They're obviously not a dual land on turn 1. But that means that decks like, for example, a Landfall Groll deck can't go a Coon Hellhound turn 1 and then also put the Landfall equipment on a turn 1 and play a land. These,
Yeah.
like the last format where we had dominant mid-range decks, restrict the ability of good 2-color aggro decks, which brings us down to more simple 1-color aggro decks, which haven't been hard for the mid-range decks to beat. Now, these formats have had a lot of other issues that we could delve in. We could have an hour video on the issues of the design and formats.
Not right now. Not right now. Let's focus on the video. Fake focus.
For the for the last year, but I think mana is we can all agree is a big issue behind it. I think mid range's mana is way better than aggro's, and at first I thought this was going to be better for mid range than aggro, but it's not. This is way better for the mid range decks. Again, this is probably way better for the control decks if they become a thing again. And yeah, I'd like to see a beatdown deck that's not just like mono green or mono red be a thing again.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because that's the whole thing with these lands is, I'm a monocolor aggro deck. I don't need a double land or red, like a flip land. I'll just play 20 mountains or 20 forests. You know what I mean? So obviously, I think these are good, but yeah, they could be a little bit better technically. But I'm gonna disagree with you on this one. Obviously, I think they're quite good. But
that's absolutely fair.
I could see how you want to be getting a bit greedy and getting like a double, just more stuff for aggro decks. I got you.
Yeah. I'm being a bit cheeky with this one saying hate, but I was so looking forward. I had a lot of
great clickbait,
Great. That's going to be in the title of the video, obviously.
Of course.
The worst lands printed in the last 20 years. Now, I was so excited for the landfall and zoo aggro decks, and I thought there was really good configurations, or even as much as Winota is obviously a broken card and shouldn't be at the top of a format, maybe that dominating for a while opposed to a mid-range deck would be nice, and I think this is going to restrict that possibility. Good lands, I'll enjoy certain decks with them, but the inability to play multiple 1-drops off the same land of different colors, really...
A bit frustrating.
Yeah, a bit frustrating for the second or third year in a row.
Hopefully
Sean,
we'll get some new ones in the future to fix that problem.
Hopefully. Sean, hopefully your next pick is a bit more reasonable than mine, my clickbaity one. What do you have on your list next?
I think it is. It's called Crag Plate Bailoff. Wow, that was a bit of a tongue twister there.
I keep calling it Craig's Plate, so you're better than me.
So it's 7 mana for 6/6. The spell can't be countered. Hexproof haste. If it was kicked for 2 and a green, so 10 mana total, you get 4 +1/+1 counters on it, right? So you kind of look at this card and you start to think of Carnage Tyrant. That's kind of the similar card. But there's a big, big difference here. It doesn't have trample. So you're paying 7 mana for 6/6. Sure, it's going to resolve. It's got hexproof. It's got haste. But guess what? It's going to be chumped by a 1/1. It's going to be chumped by a shark token, Just any random mana dork. Anything. I think this card is atrocious. 7 mana is way too much to be paying for this, especially the fact that it doesn't have trample. If I had trample, I'd be in. I'd be all over this card. It'd be a great top end or a sideboard card versus control decks. But the fact that it doesn't have trample, I don't think this is great, and I think it's only going to be a limited good card, basically. What do you think, Dave?
I lost with it in limited because it didn't have trample, and I could have sworn it did.
So it's not even great in limited.
You know what? I think it's not actually fantastic in limited because of that ability to set up like double blocks and stuff on it easily. I think like Seagate Restoration, you're their hate card. I think this is 1 mana too expensive to be extremely good.
Yeah.
So I think that's a problematic. What I also hate about it, now I think obviously it's not going to see play because of its mana costs and stuff, but say it was a bit of a low power format, there was a good control deck this saw play. Yeah. I hate hexproof. Everyone hates hexproof. I know it's a certain answer.
I really hate hexproof.
But imagine there was like a cool mid-range deck with some counter spells and removal spells, and this all of a sudden just crops all over it unless you have a very specific like hate card against it, right? Especially if they had like heroic intervention or something. So its downside is not being good enough to affect the format at all. Its upside is really uninteractive sideboard play.
Yeah.
I
like the Golgari mirrors where Carnage Tyrant was the end game.
Oh, that was so miserable. So miserable. Yeah. And you're like finalitying the whole board away and just Carnage Tyrants staring at each other.
Yeah, not the best. All right, Dave, I think we've talked about this enough. So what's your next hated card?
Very much in the same vein as my last card. Base Camp. And this, because this card punked me out. I had like 7 flipping deck lists made up. This comes into play tapped. It comes in, it's a land.
I completely agree with you on this one.
Yeah. A land that comes into play tapped, adds 1 colorless, or it adds a mana of any color if you were to play a party member, so rogue, warrior, or wizard, or activate their abilities, which can be important as well. I saw the pathways and I was annoyed, as I've ranted already. I was annoyed that my aggro decks wouldn't see play, and then this got previewed, and I was so excited. I'm like, ooh, they're pushing party. I can see some good white party decks, but we need to be able to cast multiple one drops. This is the perfect fit. Holy crap, it's terrible. It comes into play tapped. It's never going to see any play. I jumped
Yeah.
from 100 to 0 straight away, and it killed any aspirations I had of making like an Esper or a Jeskai party deck straight away.
Yeah, very unfortunate. Kind of reminds me of Unclaimed Territory, but the difference being Unclaimed Territory came in untapped from Ixalan, and why doesn't this come untapped? I don't know. I'm unsure why. I'm unsure why.
Yeah, it's not like Unclaimed Territory broke a format. It, in fact, it's only had positive effects. It's made like decks playable in Modern that maybe
Yeah,
wouldn't be playable otherwise.
exactly.
For the upside of being able to activate abilities, we get to come into play tapped land. I would rather just not make colorless mana and tap for any color for those creatures, and I think it would still be
Oh wow.
better.
Yeah. Oh, definitely, definitely for sure. Yeah.
It would be better for party decks. So I think there's Esper and Jeskai shells that need good mana and don't have it there for good payoffs. It would be good for a Warriors deck. The Rogue deck might play it because it has blue and black one drops. I think it's best iteration. But instead, we get bad mana for those decks instead, or we're restricted by mana. We have to make deck choices that lead us to not making those choices on turn one, which might even be worse.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree. This card is not good. Not going to see a lick of play. I don't think.
Yeah, I promise this is my last land and my last mana base rant on this episode. So, Sean, can you give us your next hate card?
Okay, it's my last hate card. It's Nahiri's Lithoforming. So it's X red sorcery. Sacrifice X lands. For each land sacrifice this way, draw a card. And you may play X additional lands this turn, and lands you control into the battlefield tap this turn. I don't like this card because, presumably you want to X is 3 this, or, minimum X is 3, probably X is 4, 5, 6. You're sacrificing a lot of lands that way. And guess what? You're not guaranteed to draw X lands, so it's going to set you back. You're going to tap out most likely your whole turn. I've cast this card in limited a couple times. It's been decent there, but when you don't draw lands off, sacrificing 4 lands, it's rough. You're behind. You've drawn all gas, but if you can't cast the spells, guess what? You're not in a good spot. I think this is a bit too kind of tricky. I get that it triggers landfall, but I'm not a fan of this card. No, don't like it. What do you think, Dave?
So, initially, I was ready to disagree with you on this. When I
Sure.
saw our lists, I thought there was some cool combo implications.
Right.
But I think those combo implications involve me sacrificing like all my lands. And one thing
Yeah.
that annoyed me about this card is you only sacrifice the X amount,
Right.
which didn't register to me the first time I kind of put this into a deck and tested it. But like, so for 4 mana, I wanted to sacrifice like 4 lands and try and put 4 more into play and get a bunch of triggers off my landfall dorks. No, just two.
Only two. Only
Only
two.
two. Now I think that my way might actually make the card too good. Is why I was surprised to see it
Right.
on your list. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think for that kind of return, it's not great. I think sorcery speed, uh, as a bit silly as it would be at instant speed, sorcery speed also keeps it down.
Yeah.
It's yeah, I think it's going to be complex to make it work. I saw Brian Gottlieb had a bunch of combo decks with it early in the format.
Okay. And how did those go?
Way too many moving pieces. I think I like where he's going and he's trying to push power level, but
Yeah.
and we're going to start to sound like a broken record. Why would you want a 4-piece interactive combo that can be broken up by Doom Blades when instead you could have an Omnat and an Uro?
Yeah. They both draw a card on ETB, so that's pretty good.
Why would you be doing that stuff when instead I could slam a Winota and attack that turn? It's basically a 1 card combo.
Yeah.
So it reminds me of there was like Brad Nelson played the Pyromancer's Goggles deck. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. That was sweet. That was a
That
sweet deck.
if maybe Goggles was around, this could see some cool play. That would be a cool
Right.
combo.
Spell would be, yeah, you just sack all your lands because you copy it. Wow.
Yeah. So something like that would be sweet, but without something like that, without a direct combo like that, would making lots of convoluted creatures involved. I don't
Yeah.
like this card. I don't think it's doing enough.
Cool. All right. Let's send us home there, Dave, with the last card on your list.
Last one, much as my first one, is going to be a little controversial because maybe I'm crapping on EDH players a bit too much here because I do think it's good there. But Ashaya, Soul of the Wild, it's a 5 mana legendary creature, power and toughness equal to number of lands you control, and it turns all your non-tokens into forests.
Okay.
So on its face, this looks like it could be a big bad creature, lots of power and toughness. Make all your creatures into mana sources, which could combo in certain ways, especially if you get to play this with a bunch of unsummoning sick creatures. But I think the non-token aspect of it really lets the card down because I think its
Okay.
big combos would be making a bunch of tokens first, playing this, and then using the tokens for mana. I found out the reason why it's worded like that. Well, the reason I think it's worded like that. If it wasn't worded like that, I think it's an infinite combo with Felidar Retreat.
Oh my god, that's pretty disgusting.
Yeah, so I want to say that they might have had this as just creature at first, and then that combo happened. Like, actually,
Let's
maybe
rewind that. Yeah,
let's
we'll
rewind
roll
that.
that. Yeah.
But this turns out to just be a kind of lackluster green. There's always a green creature that's like as big as your lands or as big as your creatures, and I get this is like merging them. And
Yeah.
I get this could have cool combos in EDH, but this is a big 5-drop that dies to a removal spell, and then even if you get to untap with it, doesn't snowball well. It doesn't affect the game in a cool or interesting way. It doesn't perpetuate card advantage. It just makes you some more mana. Maybe I'm greedy because I'm coming from a format with Nissa, but this is not my 5-drop of choice.
Yeah. I mean, Nissa just rotated, so maybe this is a chance, but I agree. I think it's underwhelming. Similar to the dragon, it doesn't really do anything on end of the battlefield, and there's just other stuff you can be doing that is immediate value. And as you said, even if you do untap with it, is it really that good? No.
Now, a bit disappointing. I think this card could have had some really cool play with lands and the landfall. I hate saying this because obviously their job's very hard. I think this is a tad lazy design.
Okay, okay. Well, I wouldn't say that because I can't design a magic card for the life of me, and I think it's a really hard job. But I guess we got to be controversial to get the views.
No, I agree. I agree. Never want to throw too much shade. I do love a lot of this set.
Yeah,
But Ayasha gets a big old thumbs down from me.
yeah, me too.
So thanks for sticking around, everyone, for the more negative list this week. There'll be plenty more videos from us. This week I'll be putting out all my early access decks that I got to play. So like and subscribe if you want to see more content from Mox Emerald Games, the Irish MTG channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Good luck.